Hi, I'm your host, Rick Sessinghaus, and excited to launch Flow Golf Podcast. Each episode, we will share stories, interview experts, and share cutting-edge strategies for peak performance. Here's my co-host, Hallam Morgan, to explain more about Flow Code Golf.
Thanks, Rick. Flow Code Golf is a framework of strategies, principles, and techniques that take us from fear to the state of flow, the state of optimal performance, and the zone where we play our best golf. You can find out more about Flow Code Golf at www.flowcode.golf. And I just want to finish up by saying this podcast is as much your podcast as it is ours. So please ask questions, provide feedback, and get engaged. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Rick, pleasure as always. We're back for another episode of the Flow Golf Podcast. In today's episode, I want to talk about this human versus the athlete concept and conversation. I think it's such an important one, and we often forget that athletes are also humans. So Rick, from your perspective, have you got any stories or anything you want to share on this concept?
Yeah, this one is a very important episode for me personally to share with listeners. I grew up in a very sports-minded household, played 4 or 5 different sports before I ever played golf. Okay. Fast forward, I'm playing a Division I college golf, and I was, to say the least, miserable on the golf course. I was a hothead, frustrated, and there was this one round of golf that I had with one of my mentors who was a PGA member, and she was very influential in my life. And after the round of golf, we came off and she says, "I'm never playing golf with you again." And it's like, "What do you mean? I'm a good player." I was like, she goes, "I don't care how good you are. You are miserable. You make everybody around us not want to play golf, and we don't enjoy it. You're slamming clubs. You're saying, and that was my aha moment of, performances, shooting a certain score is one thing, but how I behave is quite another thing. And I had to look into the mirror of saying, wait a second, why was I behaving like this on a golf course? Why wasn't I able to deal with a missed putt? Or why was I and I would get fired up real quick, and I would get down on myself, and people couldn't talk to me. And I was miserable. Okay. And so when we look about how that was created, because I did create that, even if it was subconscious, came a lot from my identity as a person / golfer. Now I put / there because at that time I did not have a differentiation between who I was as a golfer and who I was as a person. And so as I got better and better at golf, more and more people knew me as a golfer. And their first question was, "Hey, Rick, how did you play today?" Not "How are you doing?" or "How's life?" Or it was always, "How are you playing?" And then my definition of who I was wrapped together with my golf. And if it was a good round, of course, I had a smile on my face and I want to tell everybody about how great it was. Unfortunately, that wasn't always the case. And now when it was poorer, or when they could see my scores in, at that time, a magazine or a paper, they're now looking at it as like, "Hey, what happened there? What happened?" And it's like, uh-oh, now I have to tell people what happened, and oh my gosh, it didn't happen. So do I make excuses? And so I was wrapped into where my identity was literally just who I was as a golfer. And if that didn't go well, I did not have good coping mechanisms to deal with those down rounds or those poor shots or so on and so forth. So what ended up happening is not only was my identity tied with my golf game, but my self-esteem, my confidence. And if I played poorly, it did affect me off of the golf course. It affected me as a student. It affected me as a friend. And I went to counseling. Okay. So I went to, not necessarily a sports psychologist, but I went to counseling to share that because golf had become so important and the results had become so important. I forgot that who I was more important than the score. And that's really what helped me go down the road of even mental game performance, is identifying that, yes, I want to play good golf, but I want to be a better person out there too. And the behaviors now is something that I like to coach more than sometimes the results. How do I want to be on a golf course? Me as a human, I want to be composed. I want to be joyful. I want to be focused, right? And so that wake up call helped me go down this different road, which I'm extremely, proud that I've gone down this road, because it was going down a dark, dark road for a long time. So back to, the human versus golfer, I was just a golfer. And when I could look outside and say, wait a second, I am more than just my golf game. I am more than just this score. That's when I actually became a better person. But here's the key, everybody. I started playing better golf when I started to think about how I wanted to behave. So that's my story in that it was some dark times, and I did get help for it and got to look at the perspective of golf versus life. I'm very fortunate, and I know it sounds weird, but I'm very fortunate that I went through that when I did, because I think I give a good perspective to my clients now, who put a lot of pressure on themselves, and I get that, and you want to win and stuff like that. Yet there's the differentiation of who they are as a golfer and who they are as a person starts to unfortunately become one, and I think that can cause some health issues. Mental health.
Absolutely. And obviously, Rick, what we connected on so closely was that, look, yes, we want to create better golfers, but ultimately we want to also create better human beings, because we know that if someone becomes a better version of themselves off the golf course, that will always benefit on the course as well. So it's absolutely essential. A couple of things you mentioned there that are really interesting is actually this kind of works both ways. So your life off the course impacts your performance on it, but then also very often for a lot of people, your performance on the golf course also affects your life off of it. And that's really important to become conscious of. And something that you hear so often is that, and this is a strange analogy maybe, but a lot of people say that money's neither good nor bad. It's just a magnifier of who you really are. I kind of see golf similar to some extent. Golf's neither good nor bad. It just magnifies what kind of state you're in off the golf course, in my opinion. If you are a very stressed, if you are a very anxious, if you are a very kind of, let's say, uptight individual, the chances are that when you get onto the golf course, because there is so much good luck, bad luck, so much up and down roller coaster kind of, it is a roller coaster environment, and it's really life condensed into 5 hours. It just kind of magnifies some of those emotions even more sometimes.
Yeah, and yet, and I'm going to go on a little bit of a sidetrack here. A lot of people who knew me and still know me to this day say, I can't imagine you being that hothead. I can't imagine you doing that. And here's the challenge I had, though, is from an identity standpoint of a golfer, I believed I was supposed to be intense and serious and all these type of things. And I started to embody that on the golf course, when I don't believe that's as much as who I am off the golf course. And so this mentor I was speaking about says, why aren't you just who you are off the golf course on the golf course? And I didn't think that was going to create good golf. I didn't know that having fun and being focused and being childlike and stuff that I do like to have fun with would work, because I thought everything was about seriousness, right? So I know where you're going with this, because I believe on that side of the equation too, is that I've had people who are a certain way, they're already stressed in life. You take them on the golf course and they have a very short fuse and their trigger, and it's like, boom, there they are, right? I was reading a book years and years ago, and they were talking about what's inside you, right, would come out in a stressful situation. So it seems like a silly thing to say, but if you squeeze an orange, what do you get? You get orange juice, right? So if I squeeze somebody on the golf course, I stress them, right? What's going to come out? Well, if they're already stressed on outside of golf and they're bringing that to the course and stuff like that, there might be somebody who is stressed, somebody who's frustrated, somebody who's angry, and such like that. So I think it can go both ways, but I do agree with you that off course, who you are, and you bring it to the golf course, it can get stressed and triggered quite quickly.
Sure can. And then the other side as well, taking what's happened on the golf course into your life. One question that I speak to a lot of my clients about, or I ask them, is who are you without golf? And it's actually a question that gets a lot of hesitation to begin with. There's really kind of a lot of uncertainty on, wow, I've never really asked myself that question, because I just see myself as a golfer. And it's something definitely that with a lot of my clients, again, I've had some quite deep conversations discussing, well, in terms of the relationship you have with your loved ones, your parents, your friends, your family, how much of that stems from your golf performance? How much of that conversation that you have with them is all about, how did you play at golf today? How was golf? How was practice? How was track? How was this? How, all around golf. So all of a sudden, especially those that are aspiring tour professionals, they feel as though everything is about their golf game. They play golf, they come off the golf course, and everyone's asking them, all the conversations they have are around golf. And equally, all of their perceived love and pride they get from maybe their parents or their siblings or their friends is around golf and their golf performance. And that can be a really difficult challenge for people to overcome. One of my clients actually, I remember it's a fantastic story, but I was speaking to one of their parents, and he said actually that they have never, no matter if they win the tournament or lose the tournament, they have a rule that the entire family don't speak golf at the dinner table. And I absolutely love that rule. And it's something that not everyone needs to implement, but I would definitely recommend a lot of aspiring tour professionals to just consider implementing it into your family dynamic if it's possible, because that can be so powerful. You're forced to have conversations around things that aren't just golf. So all of a sudden you start to believe that that relationship is built upon more than just your performance on the golf course. And I think that's a lot of what we're talking about.
Yeah, I want everybody to rewind that, because when we get off the golf course, we're highly emotional for whether we shot really low or shot really high. And now how are you going to communicate? How are you going to interact with other people at that point? Is you're not a golfer anymore, right? You're now a human, right? You're a human being. You're either a spouse, a friend, and you have to, that's very tricky, right? Because you're reactionary to what the results were, because that's who you are as a golfer, and you want to either tell people or defend what you just did. And I think having a cooling off period is very important. Yet I talk about roles in life. What role are you in? And I think if you finish your round of golf and you get in your car and you're driving back to your family, you better, in that next 20 to hour, however long that commute is, shift yourself back into, I'm a family person. And what role is that is different than, I just came off the golf course and it was miserable and I can't wait to tell my wife that, oh, I got a bad bounce here. It's like, whoa, I don't think they really care. Yet, we're already wired that way. So I like to transition roles. And I think you have to be clear on what your roles are. And I think that's what you're mentioning also, is that you're a friend, you're a spouse, you're a brother, you're a sister, you're fill in the blank, and embrace that. And sometimes it's not all about golf, right? And have other interests and have other, I think, is important.
Definitely. And I think that works from both sides. So that works from the player perspective. Like you said, they're driving home from this event, they've not played great. Do they take that experience into the house or to wherever they're going next? That I think is important. But I'm sure we also have a lot of parents listening, Rick. I know you work with a lot of juniors, and obviously one of the most spectacular junior development coaches in the world, obviously, with the journey you've been on with Colin. But I know how much of an impact parents have on the identity and essentially also the love that this junior feels. And I think that's so vital, not for the player to take ownership of what role they have, but also, I guess, for the parents. So could you share a bit about that and your experience, and how maybe any parents that are listening can ensure that they provide the best support possible to create an identity inside their child, that they're not just a golfer, they are also this human being, and that they can get love and appreciation and pride from their parents in other ways other than their performance on the golf course?
Yes, this is near and dear to me for many reasons, because I've seen some top juniors get burned out. I've seen them quit golf. I've seen them perform poorly because of the interaction with their parents. And you and I are about, like we've always said, play better golf, but enjoy it, be a better person, use golf as a vehicle. It's one of many things that you're going to do in life. Do it well, but do it with joy, and so on and so forth. So I make some rules up a little bit with parents, and I said, and I have three children. So I've been through this, maybe not with golf as much, but other things. And my rule is, as a parent, I believe I have a role that how my children behave is more important than what they achieve. Okay. And so if somebody who has a parent who has a 12-year-old and all they care about is did they win that tournament or not, to me, that's problematic. Because if little Johnny wins, but his etiquette is poor, he treats rules officials poorly and rudely and stuff like that, to me, that's the human side that is not being developed, because all that they care about is the end result. Okay. And so I want to make sure that on the juniors end, I said, hey, little Johnny, as your coach here, I'm letting you know that your parents have every right to tell you if your behavior is not where it needs to be, but they should not get on you if you 3-putted the last hole. Okay. So those are the things that I try to get into, is that how do I want little Johnny to be? Could be, I want him to be respectful and composed and focused. And those are these different skills that you and I both coach. Yet if we just define him as did you win or not, okay, here's a big medal around you, we'll put that on Instagram, and oh, we're so proud of you because you won. We have to be careful with that. But if we can say we're so proud of you for being so resilient on the last few holes when you got some bad bounces and this like that, to me, that's going to now create a better human. And I think that that's where it gets a little tricky, because parents are so wrapped into it. I get it. Yet we do have to see what's best for the child.
Love that. No, it's praising the human behaviors rather than necessarily the athletic achievements. That's the difference. So I love how you discussed that, how you shared that. I think it's so powerful for any parents that are listening. Also, I guess, Rick, we've spoke a lot about golf and actually people making sure that their entire identity isn't tied into golf, but we'll have a lot of listeners that are also maybe in the corporate world or actually trying to set up businesses potentially. And I think it's exactly the same thing. You can substitute golf for, say, entrepreneurship or for a business career for you to move through the corporate world as well. Because definitely from my perspective, it's something that I've had to learn to do very, very deeply and try and do it successfully anyway. And it can become difficult. Is actually also me not getting too tied into identifying as a specific company that I'm trying to build or grow, or as a specific project, for example. And I remember one of my mentors actually sharing this with me, and it really helped me distinguish between identifying as that project, identifying as that business, and then actually appreciating that it's about Hallam and Hallam's growth and what he wants to achieve. So I used to visualize specific projects as the entire path from where I am now to where I want to get to my destination. But actually the really clear distinction was that the project isn't the path, the project is the vehicle that sits on the path. So that project may take me from here to halfway, and the vehicle may break down. And that just means that I'm halfway to where Hallam wants to be. Hallam has bigger goals, bigger visions. And I then have to pick up another vehicle that takes me slightly further along the path. That may break down, and I may then need to find another vehicle. And I continue on this path towards what I want to achieve as a human, rather than what I want to achieve as a business person or as a coach or as anything like that. And that was really, really valuable for me to make that clear distinction, because it helped me understand that Hallam Morgan as a human has goals and things he wants to achieve. And that could be certain behaviors. That can be that I want to experience certain emotions more frequently. And then I have to ask myself the question of, is this current vehicle taking me closer towards those things? And I actually have spoke to some of my clients about golf, actually perceiving golf also. Even if you're trying to reach the top level, you have to remember that golf is the vehicle, golf isn't the entire path. And it may be for some people that golf isn't the be all and end all. It's not the future. It's not what they actually need to do for the rest of their life. It's not what they're going to do for the long-term future. It's just a vehicle that's getting them closer towards where they want to be, but it may not take them the whole way. And that's, again, I've worked with clients where we've actually decided, and the players decide themselves, say, you know what, I'm not going to continue with this journey of trying to become an aspiring tour professional. And that might sound strange from a coach saying and actually guiding someone down that route, but it's very much where we discuss, look, you're bigger than golf, you're a human being. What do you want to achieve? What kind of future do you want to create as a human? And is golf moving you closer towards that? Because if the answer is no, there's definitely some conversations to be had there.
Yeah, and you and I have certainly talked about goals and values and identity in the past, and I think you bring up a very good point. Is that we all love golf, and people listening here obviously love golf. And you're right. Is it a vehicle to achieve things? Certainly it is, but it's a vehicle to for me to learn to be maybe a better person, or patience, or we know that, and we're of course biased, but golf is the ultimate in teaching us these things, right? We can teach patience, we can teach resilience, we can teach the little white ball doesn't know who you are and where you've come from, but we can, with our own behaviors, be able to push ourselves and learn and such. And you're right, if it doesn't resonate with you the same way, then fine. Okay, not forcing it, right? So back into college days, I had to be a certain way because I thought that's what golf was, and I thought, instead of saying, wait a second, I can use golf as a vehicle to be joyful, I can be creative, I can teach myself about composure and dealing with stressful situations and not being happy with not meeting my expectations. And now golf is one of the biggest ways that I can learn to be a better human.
Love it. As you say, golf maybe it's not the only vehicle, but it's kind of like comparing maybe a Bugatti Veyron would be golf. And then maybe if we talk about some other sports that we don't, they're kind of more like your Ford Fiesta or something like that, maybe. They're both vehicles, but we believe one's just a bit better than the other.
We're gonna get some bad comments from somebody. Yeah, no, I'm kidding.
No, but something that's really really interesting there, and I actually heard this, Rick, you shared that with me the other day, Dr. Joe Dispenza's interview with Ed Milet. Again, recommend not pushing people away from our podcast, but I recommend people go and listen to that too. And he said about actually setting goals based around the emotions you want to experience rather than always the material things you want to accumulate. And I think that's kind of what we're talking about here to help create that distinction between the human and the athlete. Yes, set those goals of, I want to lift that trophy, I want to get to world number one, I want to do X, Y, Z, but also don't forget about setting the goals around yourself as a human, the behaviors that you want to install, the emotions you want to experience, and all those kinds of things. And that helps you get that really good balance of human versus athlete.
Yeah, couldn't agree with more.
Love it. Great episode again, Rick. I think this one's such an important one. I'm sure we could go a lot deeper on this. We may do a future episode where we talk even more in detail, but really, really important one for everyone, but especially those, in my opinion, those that are aspiring to be tour professionals and create golf as a career, because it can be a real danger to create your entire self-esteem around your performance on the golf course. So yeah, really love that one, and look forward to the next one. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I know you've received some incredible information, and if you would like to hear more, please subscribe. Rick, how can our listeners learn more about the Flowco Golf Academy?
Are you a coach or a player? Well, I've created 2 free masterclasses. One for a coach to help you grow your mental game coaching business, and one for a player to master your mental game. Head over to www.flowco.golf to gain free access now.